Here's an admittedly strange topic for me to resurface with, but it's one that's on my mind a lot, and I think you'll find it interesting if you stick with this. What do leaf blowing companies and ranchers have in common? I'm not going to say the answer out first. Think about it in your own minds. I wonder how many people out there already know where I'm going with this, or how many people the obvious connection still escapes. And at the moment, and by the way, when I say leaf blowing company, I'm referring to what people far too generously still refer to as landscaping companies. Just completely clueless, poorly programmed robots walking around destroying things and making it look uglier and creating noise pollution, while the equally poorly programmed robots in their cookie cutter houses say, "Oh, good job." There's a similarity already. I'm not going to say it out loud, but we'll circle back to it. Oh, man. So here I am. I am all boarded up, closed all the windows, shut all the doors. I've got my noise canceling headphones in with music playing while even as I'm recording this, and a noise canceling microphone to pick this up. And I'm still going to probably have to go back and post and remove the noise pollution of the quote unquote landscapers, also known as land rapers. All right, so before I lose you, here's the connection. Here's the first connection I'm going to make between these exploitive landscaping companies and ranchers. It's the exploitation of human beings. These people, listen, it's hard to prove it without getting an entire legal team and an investigation going, but you know damn well what I'm talking about. All of you Trumpty Dumpty Republicans out there would, in a heartbeat, jump on the potential racist aspect of this and talk about the people that are quote unquote destroying the country, taking all the jobs. But these are the jobs. This is the connection that I'm talking about. These crappy jobs that the unethical, usually white company owners are in charge of, and in order to make a profit margin are happy to hire undocumented laborers for their profit margin. And yet we hear people screaming about it's the actual migrant workers, the actual people coming, seeking any sort of employment they can get because of where they came from is even worse. And those are the people that are destroying the country, supposedly. I can't understand how no one's looking at the people profiting from hiring people who are simultaneously supposedly destroying the country. Okay, so does anyone remember the interview that I did with the worker, the ranch hand that came forward exposing B Ranch Mendoza in Point Reyes National Seashore and talking about the horrific living conditions that they were subjected to? The algae and moss growing on the walls, holes in the floor and in the staircase, and raccoons living in the couch and things like this. And not to mention all the abuses toward both the wildlife and the commodity animals there. It was pretty disturbing to hear. And after Mendoza pretended to be shutting down, much like McClure did, in order to have an excuse to fire people and bring in new people to exploit. This guy, at the time that I interviewed him, was working as a landscaper. He was still an illegal citizen. He still didn't have his documents, which there's a lot of resources out there to protect these people and try and help them, which I'm not here nor there on that. You know, I'm not trying to say that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just explaining that this guy went from one exploitive employer to the next exploitive employer. The one in between, the one that's missing from this, is the actual slaughterhouses. But I'm just going to throw the ranchers into that category, because without those ranchers and the animals that they exploit, we wouldn't have the slaughterhouses that bring a miserable existence to a even more miserable end. And in the middle of all of that are miserable human beings. Now, in this BS society, this quote-unquote woke world, these virtue signalers that can't wait to find anything that you said wrong or potentially offensive, let's just knock the race thing out really quick. It's undeniable that in both of these examples, the overwhelming, consistent ethnicity is south of the border employees. It's not just Mexicans. I think a lot of people just say Mexican because that's the easiest or laziest way to say it. But here's the thing. I don't care if they're from Mars. You know, where they came from isn't the point. It's what they're going through once they get here and who's putting them through that. Who's willing to hire them and why they're willing to hire them. Because they are the type of people that are looking for human beings that are willing to be exploited because their conditions are so bad that they don't have that much choice. In fact, it makes them the ideal target, as was demonstrated in the interview that I had with the ex-ranch hand of Mendoza Ranch, saying anytime that he would ask for even the slightest improvement, just the slightest improvement, let's say a working refrigerator comes to mind, he would be threatened. And look, there's a never-ending supply. That's the wonderful thing about poverty and the human race, and a human race that just won't stop populating the planet. There's always someone else willing to be exploited when that person's finally been exploited enough. Nobody wants these jobs. And between being cruel to another living creature, which is what ranching is, and walking around blasting not just your own eardrums, but everyone within half a mile of you's eardrums, and sending fumes and particles into the air. And this just goes on and on and on. That's not a life anyone could possibly say that they wanted to live. These are shit jobs. These are shit jobs. And the people who are the CEOs, the presidents, the owners of these are shit people, because it's a shit industry. And you treat other creatures like shit for the sake of profiting in your shit industry. I gotta tell you this one before I forget. This really, really resonated with me back when I was looking up the gross domestic product of Marin County, because you always hear the lies of the ranchers saying that, being kinder to the planet and, maybe not subsidizing all of these unsustainable businesses, the ranching businesses, is going to hurt the economy. Yes, not dumping all of our resources into businesses that can't survive on their own is where we're going to be hurting the economy. In any case, it wasn't true 70 years ago when they first went on record making these claims, and it's not true now. But when I was looking at the pathetic output of the ranching community, the dairy community in particular in Marin County, in relation to the amount of land they use up, in the top 10 was Cagwin and Dorwood, who are the number one culprits of the land raping companies in this urban sprawl shithole that I've been rotting in for the last few years. It is a terrible experience. It is a terrible experience to live here. If you ever wanted to see an example of the worthlessness of the human race, come live in urban sprawl. There, by the way, besides the pathetic robots that live here and choose to call this home, and yes, sadly enough, I'm temporarily in that category, but I'm finally escaping, which really kind of points at why the people that have reduced their life expectations to this aren't really any people we need to be celebrating, because nobody lives here intentionally. Nobody wanted to live here. This is where you end up when things don't go right. And I see more of these exploited laborers than I see actual residents. I mean, there's so many. These places, it's just never ending, needless maintenance, if you want to be so kind, maintenance of sidewalks and vegetation of various kinds. And without fail, the place looks worse after these people come through. I mean, none of them have taken even an elementary course in botany. Everything they do is just destructive and noisy. And, you know, like, here I am boarded up, which is a shame, because it's that nice window of the day in the morning where it's only 90 degrees outside. That's the nice part of the day now, that you get up early in the morning so you can enjoy only 90 degrees. What is today? October 7th. October 7th, and we're going to be in the triple digits for the entire week. Yeah. I'm going to have a triple digit Halloween soon. But don't worry, everyone. Nothing's wrong. So here we are covering the planet in concrete, because the ranchers that were here first and turned this fertile plain into a death zone finally exploited the land to where they can't get anything out of it. And it's basically primed to be developed for the ever-expanding human race that needs somewhere to go. And once they do that, they build all these fake communities so that people can pretend that they don't actually live in the no man's land that they do live in, and just suck the resources out of the planet in order to maintain this illusion. The water waste here is mind-boggling, just mind-boggling, for the sake of these decorative plants that get butchered almost as quickly as they can be grown. And it's never any noise pollution. I probably wouldn't have paid nearly as much attention to this problem if the noise pollution wasn't relentless. Just relentless. I mean, and at a shocking volume. Not to mention the way the air smells. Like, try going jogging. And this starts before dawn. This starts well before dawn and goes all day long. So these poor people breathing those fumes in terrible weather conditions, in extreme heat. This tells you a lot about the human race, by the way, when it's 116, and I'm not joking. I have this on camera. 116 degrees. The sky is black from the smoke of the wildfires. And what's important? You got to have those landscapers come through and leaf blow the street. Gotta have those guys walking up and down like robots, blasting nothing. Half the time they're just blasting nothing. But it's important. Apparently it's important, because I'm the only person that is actually calling this out. So it's important to the civilized robots that live here, the destructively obedient civilized robots that live here, for this to continue to happen, because it represents the quality of life. And you know what they'll do? They do the exact same thing that the fake ranch supporters do. They pretend that these people are people that they respect. Oh, they're heroes. Look at these hardworking people. They're heroes out there doing this. No, they're not. They're exploited human beings, and they're only there because assholes like you say shit like that, pretending that you respect them, when in fact, Out one side of your mouth, you're talking about wanting to deport them because they're destroying the country. And out the other side of your mouth, you're saying, oh, look at this. Look at the great job they're doing, which is even more offensive because they're not doing a good job. These idiots that say that this improves the community and the quality of life don't even look. They don't even look. They don't have a clue what has happened to the grass or the trees or the bushes or the wildlife that can't live here, even as they desperately try to, largely due to the ongoing damage done by these exploitive landscaping companies. So here's the other parallel. The people that support the ranching community will blindly and repeatedly just declare that these are good people, salt of the earth, the core of America, feeding the hungry, and all these other lies. Just poor, hardworking Americans trying to get by. It's all complete and utter rubbish. Complete and utter rubbish. And if you've been indoctrinated to the point that you said that once in your life, it's going to take a damn near miracle for you to ever get out of that brainwashing for the entire rest of your existence. On the other side of that, you have these people claiming that never-ending noise pollution and gas fumes going into the sky, plants being butchered, leaf blowing, resources being wasted, water just running down the street like rivers every single day on every single street in a drought state are good. This is a good thing. At what point did people sacrifice an actual quality of life, like a brief peace of mind from never-ending noise pollution, to saying that the noise pollution is synonymous with their higher quality of living? Oh, look how great where I live is. The leaf blowers never stop. Look how seriously we take our community. The edgers and the mowers and the gap makers. The arborists. What an abusive word. These clueless tree butchers that do more damage than good. Oh my God. None of these people have any idea what they're talking about, but they will blindly defend it. The same way that ranch supporters blindly defend a horrific, planet-killing, taxpayer-sucking, animal-abusing industry. I wouldn't be surprised if ranchers aren't invested in these same. In fact, they just swap their employees back and forth. They help each other look out for the illegal workers looking for employment, the people that are willing to be treated like absolute dog shit. And don't pretend. If you actually do decide to start paying attention, don't pretend that you don't see. Don't pretend that you, number one, don't see the consistent trend in the ethnicity or the fact that they're always screaming in Spanish. Number two, don't pretend that you don't see the never-ending turnover. And the same people won't be there for more than a few weeks at a time. Sounds a lot like ranches. Now, I've been documenting this for 5 years. And I've actually seen white guys leaf blowing twice in that period of time. And I exclaimed out loud. I was like, holy shit. Here I am talking about race. Go ahead, come after me. Tear me down rather than face the ugly truth of what's happening out there. What's the point I'm getting at? Bringing up the race thing? Well, why aren't anyone's kids working jobs? If these jobs are so important, if leaf blowing is such a great contribution to the community, why aren't your kids doing it? If it's something to be proud of, if it's really making the neighborhood better, why aren't your kids doing it? In fact, why don't you do it yourself? You don't respect it. You know it's a shit job. Stop talking about these people stealing jobs. How about if you discipline your kid and make your kid go out and get a job? Especially where I live in Trumpville right now, I don't think any kids have jobs. I mean, they just look around looking for trouble, driving around in their absurdly loud vehicles, burning gas. The Trumpsters have $200,000 pickup trucks with giant Trump flags in the back. And the second they get out of school, if they happen to bother to go to school on that day, they're just driving around looking for people to jump, get out of the truck and go terrorize some people. This is what happens. Idle hands are the tool of the devil. But, Trumpsters that pretend to be Christians would have no idea what the Bible says, actually. Same thing with the ranches. Tell me the last time you saw white kids, high schoolers, junior high kids, adults that were Caucasian, Asian, anything other than Guatemalan, Honduran, Central American, South American, Mexican. And make your kids get jobs. Make your damn kids go get jobs. It's bad industries. Bad industries are behind all of this. And it's just mind-boggling that those same people are the ones that will go out and stand behind a rally that says we've got to get rid of these migrant workers who are stealing our good jobs and eating our country alive. Could you be any more full of crap? What was that movie that came out? God, it's already really old, maybe a decade old, Food Inc. And I started doing a reaction video to it because even though it had good intentions, it was still really, really backwards thinking. Anyway, one part of it showed the FBI raiding the housing of ranch workers and going and grabbing all these people and deporting them. How in the hell is the rancher getting off the hook here? How are you not looking at the person who created the opportunity that attracts the people that you say are the problem? Again, I am not crapping on people for coming looking for a better opportunity. That's what you do when your life sucks. So don't pretend like you wouldn't do it too. And by the way, I didn't see anyone complaining when all of these Europeans were being flown over to be coders for tech companies and had to have sponsored visas and all of that because of these egotistical techie CEOs that wanted to pretend to have the best coders. Well, you want to talk about big salaries being spent on foreigners? Just admit that the only problem you have is that there is between white and not white. Or really, it's not as simple as white, is it? Asians, Middle Eastern, Indian, European, Russian, all of that's okay. It's only south of the border that's not okay. And when we really decide that it's time to get rid of these people, it's when they take the leaf blowing and exploited ranch hand jobs and the slaughterhouse jobs. Way to keep America great. You ignorant ass motherfucking Trumpsters. Way to keep America great. I took my headphones out with the music playing, and guess what? Sure enough, very first thing I heard, just the never-ending, relentless noise pollution of mindless land raping. Go celebrate it. Go celebrate your higher quality way of life. It's what separates us from the animals, right? You're very civilized. There it is, everyone. The look and the sound of an improved quality of life.